Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Building Zenigo, an open source SaaS, which is a feature flag and release management software available, to self-host and everything. But I just thought I should go over the architecture again because I have a new kind of library in my monorepo that I would like to demonstrate. And first of all, I should really show the architecture. So all of these services, for example, the identity service, which contains user information, the feedback service will also need to obtain user information from the identity service through the RabbitMQ message broker to perform authorization. So what I've done is I've included some typed client proxies. So normally what happens is when you send a request to another microservice through the RabbitMQ message broker, you don't know if that message pattern exists, and you don't know if that type of request will be handled by another microservice. But with this typed client proxy, which I will show the code for, so you have a type of any message contract with a record with a key and a message. So you give it the key, which will be the key of the contract, and then you give it the contract. And inside the type client proxy, it has a standard client proxy, which will send. So you can pass in type arguments, generic type arguments, to the send function of the client proxy, but you don't know if they're correct because you're just putting them in yourself. So if you change the shape of the payload, then that won't get reflected automatically at build time. You could have a bug in your code. So what this does is it adds a send async, which this returns an observable. So I just convert that to a promise using first value from RxJS. And then that returns a promise of the response from the other microservice that you're talking to. So you create this by first injecting an untyped client proxy, first of all, and then you use the typed client proxy constructor passing in the contract. I'll show you the contract in a second. And then you pass in the untyped client proxy as a constructor parameter. And I'll just show you an example of a contract. So for example, you would have these message patterns. So for example, get project by ID or get project by client subdomain. You would say this is an authenticated microservice controller payload with this type of payload inside of that payload. And it returns a project DTO or null. And you can also have anonymous, which they just don't require user authentication. So they don't include the user's email or ID in the payload. And the nice thing about this is, I'll just show you, const result equals to await this identity client send async. Then see, it auto completes the pattern, so you see what's available and what's defined by the contract. Now, I have these stored as constant, so if they do change their name, they get changed automatically. So you don't need to update the code everywhere. You would get build errors, so it wouldn't be a runtime error, it would be a build time error. And the nice thing is it also tells you that you need a client subdomain and a client IP. So if we include those, client subdomain, client IP, and data in this case is void, so you would do null as never. And then you can see you get back a microservice send result with the project GTO, and I'll delete this duplicate. So the result has a HTTP status. So I'm reusing HTTP statuses. It's not actually HTTP, it's over the RabbitMQ message broker, but I figured if the enum is already there, then why not reuse it? Because the same statuses make sense when talking to microservices over RabbitMQ most of the time. So if the status is not equal to OK, then we return null. Otherwise, we return status of OK, and data, the desired data, which is the Bootstrap widget script. And I'll just show you in Insomnia. Hopefully this will work now. So Bootstrap script, you can see if I hit send, hopefully it's running. This takes a few seconds because there is 4 or 5 microservices and they all need to build and then start up. No errors found. Now, you can see the API gateway has a route called bootstrapwidget.js, which it obtains from the feedback service through RabbitMQ, and the feedback service connects to the identity service to get the project subdomain, and it returns the project details inside of this JavaScript widget, so that this is the Bootstrap widget. So I'll just show you what I'm talking about now. This is this little widget in the bottom right corner here that you can click, and you can embed it into any website, not just the website that it belongs to. And it gets initialized with the project subdomain, which you can then use to report bugs for that specific website. And then you can view those bug reports in your dashboard, etc. So you can see this is pointing to localhost, so it goes to localhost.api.zenigo.local.io port 8000. And that points to the Econexus widget.js, which I need to change the name of, which I will be changing to the name feedback widget, which will be returned from a Redis cache. But basically it's just the main bundled and obfuscated JavaScript code that the widget that I just showed you uses, that it runs on, that takes in the parameters passed in from the Bootstrap widget script. So yeah, that's just the contract there. So you can see the payload that it takes in and the payload that it returns. The name of the method, message pattern, but you can call that like a method as if it was in a monolith, but it's actually talking through the RabbitMQ message broker. And yeah, I just wanted to show that because I think if you're writing your own Nest.js microservices, you might want to copy that same code. As always, the project is open source, so the code is available in the repo linked in the description. If you want to go ahead and give it a star on GitHub, that would mean a lot to me. And if you want to leave a comment on this video with any feedback or any questions or anything, I'll keep an eye out and I'll answer any questions. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for watching.